are you smarter than a crackhead? Apparently, I'm not. One crackhead once approached me and my friends and he said, you kids, you go to school, you go to work 5 days a week. You guys only have the weekend to look forward to, only the weekend to get intoxicated, to get high from weed. But me and my crackhead buddies, we get high 24/7, 365, all day, every day. I want to say to him, that might be the case. You may get high all day, every day. However, what's more important than your livelihood? What's more important than having a roof over your head and food in your belly? It's sad how crackheads, a lot of them, they turn to alcohol, they turn to drugs to suppress what's really going on inside, right? That's why people turn to alcohol and drugs, to relieve the stress, to relieve the depression. They want to numb their pain. They want to escape from reality. And it's so, that is such the case when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses, just like crackheads, they want to escape from reality. They want to live in this fictional bubble where it's easier to pretend like there's a paradise that's right around the corner. That's easy. It's easier than to live in reality. Because here in real life, in reality, people, we only live for what, 70, 80, 90 years if we're lucky. Then our life is over with. People don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that we only on this planet for such a short period of time. So what do? What do Jehovah's Witnesses do? They go to the Kingdom Hall, they go to the conventions, they go to the assemblies, right? And the minute they get there, they take a big old puff. And they get high off this pipe dream. This fictional paradise pipe dream. They get high off of that. Because it's easier. It's way easier to live in this fictional make-believe land than to live in reality. And to accept the fact that we're all going to die one day. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear that. But whether if you want to hear it or not, that's the reality. And if you're a Jehovah's Witness watching this video, when someone like myself, when someone who's an ex-member tells you that you Jehovah's Witnesses have been patiently waiting for 150 years for paradise, and paradise is nowhere to be found. When I say 150 years, that should be an automatic red flag. Every Jehovah's Witness should be like, whoa, we really been waiting 150 years? We've been saying that paradise, the end of days, we've been saying this for 150 years? Something should click. But it's sad that Jehovah's Witnesses, they're so high off this paradise pipe dream. They're so high that they don't want to come down. They don't want to come down from that high. They don't want to have to face the music. They don't want to have to face reality. So they stay on cloud nine. Keep inhaling. I call it the kingdom crack. When they go to the assemblies, when they go to the conventions, when they go to the meetings or weekly meetings, they get high off this kingdom crack. Because real life is hard. Not knowing what's going to happen after death, that's hard to believe in. In fact, most witnesses, they don't even believe that they're going to die. They truly believe that paradise is right around the corner. But like I said, when someone like me, when an ex-member tells you that you guys been waiting for 150 years, let me remind you, it's been 150 years. That means in the last 150 years, Jehovah's Witnesses were born and raised with this mentality of, oh, paradise is right around the corner. We're going to be there any day now. They've been saying this for the longest. Witnesses have been born and raised, they grew old, and eventually passed away believing in this paradise pipe dream. Now, when I see crackheads on the streets, right, I say to myself, hold on. At one point, they were kids. At one point, they were young and they saw how other crackheads look. And they had to say to themselves, I'm never going to grow up to be like that. I'm never going to grow up to be a crackhead. So what happens? How does someone who was once young, who once seen what crack and other drugs did to people out on the streets, how do you see that as a young person? You grow up and you do the same exact thing. And next thing you know, now you're on the streets. You're taking drugs, you're alcoholic. Now you out on the streets on the same path. How does that happen? When you were once a young person and you saw what these drugs did to do to people, and you grew up and you do the same thing. You have to think, how does that happen? It's sad to say, as of right now, there are teenagers, there are young teenagers out there right now who they have to see people doing drugs, right? People out on the street, homeless people, druggies. And I'm sure they're looking at them like, I would never be like you. But little do we know, there's always going to be homeless people. There's always going to be druggies out in the streets. There's always going to be alcoholics. And just like there's young ones right now that's in the next 15, 20, 30 plus years, some of these people, some of these young ones, they're going to end up on the streets, homeless, doing drugs. It's a cycle that keeps going. There's always going to be homeless people. There's always going to be druggies because people want to escape from reality. People want to escape from their pain. People want to numb their pain. That's why they do drugs in the first place. That's why they become alcoholics, because people want to numb their pain. People just want to escape everyday reality, everyday life. They want to escape. So they turn to alcohol, they turn to drugs. But like I just said, how does someone who's young, how do they observe a homeless druggie out in the streets? And then later on in life, instead of learning from that example, they mimic that person. How does that happen? Likewise, when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses, how is it that there are witnesses who their parents, right? Their parents, their grandparents, and their great-grandparents are all witnesses. How do they mimic their parents and say to themselves, hold on. My great-grandparents said that the end was right around the corner. My grandparents said that paradise is going to happen any day now. My parents said that we're going to be in a new system before you know it. How is it that there are generations being passed down and no one's learning? No one's learning that this paradise thing might just be a hoax. This paradise theory, paradise may not even come. Just like young ones out in the streets, they see crackheads, like I just said. They see crackheads, druggies, and all these alcoholics out in the streets. Some of these people don't learn, they mimic them. And it's the same with Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses, they pass down this nonsense from generation to generation, and no one stops to ask questions. No one stops to do their research. They just blindly believe. They pass it on to their kids, so forth and so forth. And before you know it, you have young people turning into elderly people, and then they pass away. And meanwhile, their entire life, they've been smoking this kingdom crack, this paradise pipe dream. When a Jehovah's Witness, they go to the meeting, right? After the meeting, what happens? They'll say, oh, I'm so happy I made it to the meeting today. I feel so better. I I had such a bad day today, brothers and sisters. And I'm so happy I went to the meeting. I'm surrounded by my brothers and sisters. I'm surrounded by love. I had accurate knowledge at the meeting today. I listened to a good talk. Witnesses, they supposedly feel better after the meetings, right? Little do they know, it's all psychological. They're not learning anything new at the meetings. The only thing that's going on at the meetings is that they keep listening to the same talks that's being regurgitated over and over, right? They have to install this fear. They have to keep reminding themselves that paradise is right around the corner. That's that kingdom crack. That's that crack that they get high off. This pipe dream. They have to keep reminding themselves that, hey, there's a new system. Paradise is right around the corner, because without that, they have nothing. Without this fictional pipe dream, they are ordinary people living on this planet that's about that has to face the music. They have to face the fact that, oh shit, without this religion, without this paradise hope, I have nothing to look forward to. I just lived for 70, 80 years and I died. That's it? That's what life is about? No, that can't be it. Paradise got to be real. It has to be real. Well, you know what? Give me this crack. Yeah, what's this kingdom crack at? Whew, I feel better. They have to stay on that high, even though it's not real. Even though their beliefs is not real, it's real to them. Because without that, they have nothing. So just like these druggies out in the streets, these homeless people in the streets, Jehovah's Witnesses, they also need to escape reality. They need to numb their pain. There's so many witnesses. How many witnesses do we know that's struggling with some type of mental illness, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations? So they numb their pain with this fictional paradise hope. They keep replaying that in their minds. Paradise is right around the corner. I can't wait to make it. They keep saying this until they grow old and eventually die. But like I said, when you tell a Jehovah's Witness, do you know that you guys have been waiting for 150 years? It's been 150 years. That should allow every Jehovah's Witness to hit the brakes. Whoa! He has a point. Jerron has a point. Has it really been 150 years? We couldn't be saying this for 150 years. But when you say that to a Jehovah's Witness, that should make them think, right? That should make them put down that kingdom crack and think for once. But what happens when you try to encourage a Jehovah's Witness to use their critical thinking skills? And when you say to them, oh, it's been 150 years, instead of them hitting the gas like they should hit the gas. Sorry, they should be hitting the brakes. I'm sorry. They should be hitting the brakes and be like, whoa, it's been 150 years. Let me really think about what I'm doing in this religion. Let me really dwell on this, because I don't want to waste my life. If it's been 150 years waiting, what makes me think that I'm going to usher into paradise when for the last 150 years, people was born and raised and they died believing in this pipe dream? I don't want to go down that road. I don't want to go down that route. I don't want to waste my life and grow old and eventually die waiting for this paradise. So let me hit the brakes. See, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't think like that. Instead, they do the complete opposite. When you encourage them to think critically, they hit the gas. They put their foot on the gas. Oh, this is apostate lies. I gotta speed up. I have to get away from this critical thinking. I can't think. We are not instructed to think. We are instructed to blindly believe and listen to the governing body leaders. So let me put my foot on this gas and let me get away from this apostate. Make it make sense. When you see, if you God forbid, if you had a family member or a friend who was homeless. You saw them out in the streets. You saw them strung out on drugs. And you approached them. You say, hey, listen, I don't know what happened. I'm here for you if you need me. I love you. Please, please get off these streets. These drugs ain't doing good for, it ain't doing no, it's doing you no good. Stay away from the drugs. Get your life together. And they say to you, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm happy out on these streets. This crack right here is keeping me away from my problems. I'm numb and I'm loving this. Yeah, I'm on the streets. Yeah, I'm homeless. But I'm high. I'm constantly high. And I'm constantly feeling good. I love this feeling. I'm numb. I'm high 24/7. I love this. That is how a Jehovah's Witness sounds when you encourage them to do their research. They would rather stay high off this fictional, fake paradise dream. They would rather stay high off of that. They would rather live in this fake bubble than to become the true versions of them, than for them to become their true, authentic selves. No Jehovah's Witness could look in the mirror and know who they are, because their entire identity revolves around the religion. Without the religion, without that Jehovah's Witness religion, they don't know who they are. And how well can one function once they're on any type of substance? This is why they say, if you're under any substance, if you're drinking or if you're high, right? Don't drive. Don't drive. Because when you're under a substance and you're in a vehicle driving, right? You're not thinking clearly. You're not thinking rationally. You're going to end up harming either yourself or somebody else. That's why they say, if you're under the influence of something, don't drive. Don't drive while being high. Don't drive while drinking, right? Now, when you're on this, we are all on this journey of life, right? We're just trying to, navigate through this journey of life. Can you function properly when a Jehovah's Witness is under the influence of the governing body leader's crack? Can you function properly? You can't. You can't even think properly, right? Because you're under their influence. And once you're under the governing body leader's influence, when you smoking that kingdom crack, you don't think rationally. You don't think logically. You only see things one way. You only see things, you have tunnel vision, right? And sad to say, you have tunnel vision in a bad way. You don't think open-mindedly. You don't think critically. You only see things from one perspective, and that's the governing body leader's perspective. And it's sad that Jehovah's Witnesses, they would rather stay high off this fake pipe dream than to even let it be a possibility that what they believe in is not the truth. And for this to be the only life that we have that's guaranteed, and to have millions of people throwing away their entire life over a pipe dream, over a paradise pipe dream that they can't even prove is true. You know how sad that is? You know how many witnesses I told that I encouraged them to open their Bibles and show me the scripture where Jesus spoke about people residing on a paradise earth forever. You can't show me the scripture. That scripture does not exist. Nowhere in the Bible will you see the two words paradise earth. Nowhere in the Bible will you see a scripture where Jesus spoke about people living forever on earth. It's not in the Bible. But yet you still have millions of people on that kingdom crack. You have millions of people who would rather live in this bubble, this superficial, fictional bubble, than live in reality, than live in real life. I really don't get it. I don't get it. And you know what's something else I thought about recently? I was on the phone with a friend a few days ago, and we was talking about Jehovah's Witness funerals. When a Jehovah's Witness dies, right? Their funeral, it lasts for about an hour. The speaker who talks about the person, right, that passed away, they will talk about the person for 10 minutes. For 10 minutes, they'll talk about the person. And for the remaining 50 minutes, they will talk about, oh, if you want to see this person again, study with Jehovah's Witnesses. They'll make it into a marketing talk to bring other people into the religion. So it's so crazy. It's so bizarre. The person who just passed away gets 10 minutes. 10 minutes of their life. What they done, what they achieved, how good of a person they were, just for 10 minutes. And the remaining 50 minutes, they will talk about this superficial paradise that you can't even prove is true. They're talking about something that they can't even verify is true. For 50 minutes, they talk about something they can't prove is going to happen. But 10 minutes, someone who's dead right there in the casket, they get 10 minutes. Someone who once lived gets 10 minutes. But a pipe dream that you can't even prove is going to happen, you can't even prove it's going to come true, you can't even prove it, that gets 50 minutes. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. Jehovah's Witnesses, they smoke so much of that kingdom crack. And like I said, they have to. For them to stay sane. For them to stay sane. They have to. They have to smoke that kingdom crack. Once again, the kingdom crack is the meetings, it's the conventions, it's the assemblies, it's them going out in service. Anything affiliated with the Jehovah's Witness religion, that's that kingdom crack that Jehovah's Witnesses stay on. And just like these homeless people, these druggies out in the streets, they choose the easy way out. Because it's always easy to do the wrong thing. It's always easy to do something that's not beneficial for you in the long run. It's easy for Jehovah's Witnesses to remain witnesses because they have their community, right? They're in their comfort zone. Familiar faces, familiar surroundings. It's easy. But what happens later on in life? That kingdom crack that they keep smoking. That kingdom crack that they keep getting high off, right? You could take that, you could keep going on to all your meetings, you could keep coming at your meetings, you could go out in service, you could keep doing that, right? But eventually, you're gonna grow old and you're gonna die. And your whole life was for nothing. Your whole life you slaved for a man-made organization. For your whole life you was taught that you was gonna make it to paradise. And the only thing that you made it to was your casket. We're all gonna end up there one day. We're all gonna pass away one day. But do you pass away lying to yourself? Pretending like a paradise is gonna happen? When in reality, every Jehovah's Witness every born and raised Jehovah's Witness who's over the age of 30, they know damn well that paradise should have been came. They know damn well paradise should have been came. But yet, they do what's easy, and they keep smoking this kingdom crack. They keep lying to themselves. They keep fantasizing about paradise. They keep fantasizing about seeing their deceased loved ones again. Because no one wants to come to the conclusion that, oh shit, there's a possibility that I may not never see my deceased loved ones again. There's a possibility that I wasted all this time in this organization. I wasted decades, 20, 30 plus years, and this is fake? Oh, no, no, no. I don't want to hear that. I don't even want to think that for 1 second. I don't want to even believe that for 1 second. That what I believe in is fake? No. No, 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 no. You know what? Let me go to my meetings. Let me do a personal study. Let me pray to Jehovah. Let me go on service. Let me do something to keep my mind busy. Because I don't even want to have to come to the conclusion that this religion is fake. I don't even want to think about that. And just like these homeless people out on the streets on drugs, on alcohol, just like they suppress their pain with substances, because it's easy to do that. But just like these homeless people on drugs and alcoholics, just like they escape their pain with substances, Jehovah's Witnesses do the same thing subconsciously. Subconsciously. Because when you tell a witness to do your research just to make sure that what you believe in is the truth and you're not being played, when you say that, you guys remember what happened this past year, just a few months ago, the convention, the drama where the brother who was woke, he did his research and he encouraged the other brother who did not do his research. He encouraged him. He said, "Hey, bro, do your research." He said to him, "Have you looked at the material that I sent to you?" And the brainwashed, indoctrinated Jehovah's Witness brother, he said, "Why are you even looking at that trash?" And the other guy said, "How do you know it's trash? We haven't even looked at it. How do you know?" How would a Jehovah's Witness know? How do you know that you have the truth if you cannot even compare it to nobody, to anything else? Jehovah's Witnesses only listen to the governing body leaders. And in this scenario, the governing body leaders, they're like the corner boys, the drug dealers on the streets. Instead of selling crack, they're over here selling pipe dreams. They're getting people hooked. Instead of getting people hooked on drugs, they're getting people hooked on this paradise pipe dream. And most witnesses, they're hooked on this for life. Because just like these druggies out in the streets, people don't want to face reality. Life is hard. Life sucks. But it is better to face life head on than to indulge in any type of substance just to numb your pain. Just to numb your pain. Trying to think I had so many points earlier. So before I end this video, I want to make sure I get all my points out. Like I said in the beginning of this video, what is more important than someone's livelihood? What is more important than having food in your belly, clothes on your back, a roof over your head? What's more important than that? Nothing. And it's sad that Jehovah's Witnesses, they choose something that's fake, a superficial, fictional, man-made organization. They choose to live in this bubble, right? Over their livelihood, over real life. Make that make sense. How do you choose something that's superficial over reality? You told Jehovah's Witness paradise ain't coming. You guys have been waiting for 150 years and you still believe paradise is coming? Who in their right mind would still be waiting for something like it's going to happen tomorrow? When all this time, since the beginning of this religion, Jehovah's Witnesses have been born and raised and they've all died. Anyone who was born 100 years ago, they're dead now. Likewise, the Jehovah's Witnesses that are living right here and right now, they think that, we're going to be in paradise any day now. And little do they know, 100 years from now, them, me, everybody on this planet, we're all going to be dead 100 years from now. The difference between me and a Jehovah's Witness, I don't choose to smoke this kingdom crack. Not anymore. I choose to live in a real world. Where in the real world, people don't hide behind religious cults. It's one thing to have faith in God. It's an entirely different thing to put all your faith and trust in mere men that promise a brand new paradise world. And what happens when this world doesn't come? What happens when this paradise doesn't come? What happens when Jehovah's Witnesses live to be 70, 80, 90 years old, and their entire life they've been lying to themselves and other people, saying, oh, paradise is right around the corner. Paradise doesn't come. What happens then? Just like these homeless druggies out in the streets, if they don't fix their lives, if they don't get their acts together, it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. A time has to come where people say, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm done numbing my pain. I'm done. Sorry. I'm done numbing my pain. I'm done taking substances. I mean that literally and figuratively. Anyway, guys, if you're a Jehovah's Witness watching this video, I know it's easy to rule me as a mentally diseased apostate. But keep in mind what I said. You guys have been waiting for 150 years. There should be no excuses. When I say that, when I say you guys have been waiting for 150 years, something should click up here. Something should click. Because if you don't listen to me, you keep doing what you're doing, keep going to your meetings, going on service. Oh, paradise right around the corner. What happens 50 years from now when paradise doesn't come? And you feel stupid because you wasted your entire life lying to yourself. You wasted your entire life playing it easy in this little bubble, this little spiritual bubble where you really don't excel. You thrive in this bubble. You thrive in your comfort zone. You thrive just like alcoholics and druggies out in the streets. They thrive out there, out in the streets, because they have nothing to achieve. They have no goals to achieve. All they do is numb their pain. All they do is suppress their pain with alcohol and drugs. Likewise, it's the same with witnesses. They suppress their pain by going to the meetings and lying to themselves. Paradise is right around the corner. Meanwhile, so many witnesses, they don't live their lives right here and right now. The one life that we have right here and right now, they don't live that life. They live in this paradise life, this paradise world up here. They live in this fantasy world until they grow old and eventually die. And then they have nothing to show for themselves. Nothing at all. Anyway, guys, if you're a Jehovah's Witness watching this video, know that I have nothing but love. Like I always say in my videos, I have no animosity, no hate for the witnesses. I despise the governing body leaders. I despise the leaders who's giving out false hope, selling pipe dream hope, lying to millions of Jehovah's Witnesses. I despise the governing body leaders, but I do not despise the rank and file witnesses. Anyway, guys, love you. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.